Hello. Today I want to take another look at foiling using embossing folders. So I've got a selection of embossing folders here, and this is the kind of thing I'm looking to produce, so that I've got some background foiling as a pattern. So sort of thing, we'd love to have lots of hot foil plates to do this, and that would produce really good quality, but they're just not there, not available, so we have to improvise. And one of the things we can use is embossing folders. Lots of us have embossing folders. They get given away in magazines. They're fairly inexpensive to buy, so there's something we can, that's accessible hopefully for everybody. So I've picked some embossing folders out of my collection to have a go with here. And I've done other videos about foiling with embossing folders, and used a method that needed a thin metal shim. Now this method doesn't, and I've particularly done this because I've had feedback from people that thin metal shims, like the one I use, which is only 0.3 millimeters thick, are actually difficult to get hold of at the moment. I'm making this video in August 2018. If people can't get hold of a metal shim, they're not going to be able to do this. So I thought I'd try something else. So this method, as I say, doesn't need a metal shim. So this is one of the embossing folders I'm going to be playing with, and this one happens to be the one that comes free with the tonic magazine that's just out, part of the kit of card making bits and pieces that come with it. It's an embossing folder, there's a die set comes with it, stamps, papers. So lots of people will be getting this one, or be out going to the shops and thinking, that's the one I saw in Joanne's video. So there's that one. I've picked this one, which I used in one of my first videos on using embossing folders. It's a very small sort of floral pattern. It's got very, very fine lines for the embossing. That makes it particularly suitable. So there's that one. And then I wanted to pick one that doesn't have a pattern all over. This one only goes halfway, because I found with this type of embossing folder, this piece of card, I need to make a mask so that I don't get foil in lots of places where I don't want it. So I'll be showing you that. I covered that in one of my previous videos about using embossing folders, making the masks in more detail. But basically, you emboss a piece of card and you cut round the area that's embossed, leaving a small margin, small gap, just so that you've got some way of stopping foil getting all over the bits of card where you don't want it. Okay, so that's that. So, but the first one I'm going to play with is the tonic one. Okay, so the other thing is, if you've got embossing folders with printing on like this, although we're going to be using the raised side for actually doing the foiling, but if this printed side, if this gets hot, this printing actually transfers, and it can end up transferring to the GoPress, and then from the GoPress, when it's heated again, onto other cardstock, which is a real nuisance. So I'm going to put a piece of scrap card over that, just to make sure that anything comes off of there doesn't end up anywhere that's going to cause a problem. Okay, so first things first, I need to cut some foil and get some card. So I'm going to use this copper foil because it shows up well on the video. It's Couture Creations foil for the GoPress. Sorry, that was a bus going past. And I find that the Couture Creations foils are the most versatile. They transfer reliably. Don't need difficult amounts of pressure, and as I say, that they're consistent and versatile. They come in lots of colours, and in the UK £2.99 for 5 meters it is a good price for a short length of foil. So I think they're really good value for money as well. Right, so that's my card and my foil. I've got a piece of waste card here, and you can see the black on there where I was using it earlier today. That black has transferred off of there, so I don't want that happening again. So let's bring my GoPress over. It is now warmed up. So if you're new to using the GoPress, this slides onto the base unit. You press the button so that it comes on and the light starts flashing red, and when the light goes green, it's hot enough. So my light's gone green, so I pulled this out so you can see in front of the camera. So I'm going to lay that on there. I'm going to put this piece of card behind that side so that any of that black ends up on my piece of card, not on my GoPress. Okay, that there. My card and my foil go on top. And then I need shims. Right, shims. So these are, you know, half sheets of 250 GSM card. Quite often I've been experimenting and they failed, so I just keep them one side and I keep reusing them as my shims for my GoPress. So there's number one, and there's number two, and they add thickness, but they also stop the edges of the foil getting onto the lid or anything else that I don't want foil on. So there we are, those go in there, and then this all needs to go back on the base unit and warm up. Now my light's gone flashing red and it'll go green in a minute, and that's not going to be hot enough. I'm going to leave it longer than that. So while we're waiting, I'm going to show you some samples. Now this is my second attempt at recording this video, so I've got lots of samples. So this is one done using this embossing folder. That came out really nicely. This was a Couture Creations embossing folder. It's got flowers and leaves, and that's come out really lovely. I'll make a card with this later. And then this tonic embossing folder. I initially tried it with some silver foil that isn't a Couture Creations foil. It doesn't transfer as easily, and it's rather shabby. Not too happy with that. It's a different embossing folder. That one is not quite as rigid, and I had a lot of trouble not getting over foiling in between bits on that. There's another version of that. Now this one I liked. This one is bright silver foil on matte silver card. So I think that's quite nice. I'm just going to straighten the camera slightly. That's better. There we are. So that'll make a nice background. This again is that tonic embossing folder on some red card using gold Couture Creations foil, and it's foiled quite nicely, but it looks a bit more rustic, and that's down to the surface of the card. It's a very keyed kind of surface of the card, but it does take foil quite well. And this is the cardstock that they sell in Lidl in the UK periodically, and I think it's only £1.99 a pad when it goes on offer. Usually around the craft groups on Facebook, people go, "Oh, Lidl have got their card," and people rush out and get themselves their nearest Lidl and buy stock up on card for the year. Let me show you the pad. There we go. So you get a whole pad of it. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of colours. And it's Crolando is the brand. So really good value, as I say, good stuff for foiling on. Using hot foil stamps, there's enough pressure then to really get a smooth finish on it, and the shininess of the foil then contrasts really nicely with the sort of matte finish of the card. That's what we're doing at the moment. Now, yeah, see this one, I had more shims in when I tried it that time, and I've got lots of overfoiling, and there was overfoiling here, and I've tried rubbing it out and it hasn't come off properly. So there's that, and then I had too few shims there and I didn't get proper foiling in places. So yeah, it's real tricky at times getting it just right. That time it worked. Slightly different foil, slightly different cardstock. Yeah, that came out really nicely. Not quite enough pressure on that one. It's got bits missing here. Now this is some hunky-dory, adorable, scoreable card. Now it's known as being sort of the card for foiling on, and it's taken the foil really nicely. But adorable, scoreable, it's not necessarily over thick, although it does come in different thicknesses. But it's got a very smooth finish on it, and it's a very stiff card, you know. So that makes it particularly suitable for foiling. Okay, and I did have a go at embossing the card and then foiling on top of the embossing. I wasn't really happy with how that came out. If I'm embossing, I think I prefer to use sort of gilding waxes and inks to bring out the detail. So that's been warming up. It's just gone back to red again, so I'll just let it go back to green, and then I'll go and run it through my die cutting machine. Oh, and when I foiled onto the matte silver card, the waste came out really lovely. So I may have a go at recovering that and see if I can get a nice background with that as well. I've not had a lot of success recovering waste foil, to be honest. Right, so I'm off to the die cutting machine. Hang on. Okay, so I'm back from my die cutting machine. So 1, 2 shims. Now I can see very faintly on the back of the card an impression from the embossing folder, and that's a good sign. That means you've had good contact all the way over. So let me just take that off, and there you can also see where the foil was being pressed into the card. Okay, now the embossing folder this is how it would be closed. Okay, so it's the back, the lumpy side that's the smooth edge. The lumps are facing up on here. Okay, because you're just thinking, which way up did you have the embossing folder? Okay, so that's how it goes. And so now I'm going to close it, and I'm going to take this piece of card off the back before it cools down. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to slide it under my glass mat so that it's kept nice and flat while it cools down. There we are, and it's closed, and that will just flatten out as it cools. Okay, so I'm going to put this back on the base unit to continue warming up, and let's see how we did with this. Oh, I think this might be my best result yet. Whoa. Yeah, that's done really well. I've got a bit of a problem with pressure on my die cutting machine. It keeps missing a corner. But yeah, I'm really happy with how that's turned out. You never get perfect foiling with embossing folders, so you can see on the hearts here there's bits that are missed, and on the little buckets that the Christmas trees are in, where those that should be solid, and that's because the embossing folders just aren't stiff enough to give good pressure all the way across that surface. Okay, and that's why embossing folders with fine lines work much better. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, so let me look at this one next. Okay, So this one, I've got this strange shaped piece of card. And what I did with this some time ago was and yeah, you can see it's got foil on it, was I embossed a piece of card, and then I've cut so that I've now got a piece that fits just a small gap where the embossed area ends before I get to this. And that's to protect the piece of card I'm foiling from getting foil all over here, because where these aren't rigid, you will find that your card, and if you've got a big piece of foil, you'll find that you actually get foil pushed onto the card from this side. Okay, so let's have a look at what we're doing with that. Okay, so I've already done it in that, and that's really nice. Let me do it in the copper. Okay, so do I need it that wide? Maybe I won't. Yeah, let's do it full width, full length. Okay, so I'm just measuring my foil so I can see where to get it. I find it best to use a big pair of scissors and unroll my foil to just where I want it cut, and just cut straight across the roll. And then I don't need all this bit, so I will trim my foil. And you have to be a bit careful how you kind of mark where you want to trim your foil, because you don't want to kind of create damage on the foil you're going to use. But I think if I go across there, fold it like that, trim that. That's it, and that's not rubbish. I will use that for something smaller later. Right, so there we are. So to get this to work, what I need to do, get my piece of card. So I need to put my foil on, and it's on the lumpy side. So if I've got smooth, and then I get to lumps here, I can feel the texture of the embossing folder. Okay, so I put my foil on, and then I put my mask on. The mask goes up against this edge, and if I carefully put my finger down here, I can feel whether or not my mask is far enough from the embossing, and it wasn't there. I'm just moving it back over to the edge there, maybe in a bit. That's it. So that's it. And then I'm going to put a piece of tape to just fix that in place, just to tape that mask to the back side of the folder, and then I can put my card on, and I can tape my card to the other side of the folder as well. There we are. So that just helps keep everything still. And then I still need this, because this has printing on there, so I shall put that over the back. Okay, so let's get my GoPress. Okay, so this goes with, okay, so back of the embossing folder goes down on the GoPress. That goes under there, so no heat transfers from there. Then I want my 2 shims. Now it might be more than 2 shims for you, or you might find if you need more than 2 shims, then you might be better putting a shim, or however many you need. You might be better laying it on top of the lid. Okay. And if you're worried about it coming loose when you're die cutting, maybe tape it in place with some masking tape. I use Frog Decorator's masking tape for delicate surfaces. It peels off cardstock very nicely, hardly ever damages my cardstock, and doesn't go all gooey in the heat. So, okay. And 3M do a similar decorator's masking tape, suitable for use on freshly painted surfaces is the kind of key term you look for. So you can do that, but this needs to warm up before it goes anywhere. So back onto the base unit. That's it, my red light's starting to flash. And while we're waiting, let's just have a look. So you can see that has flattened out nicely. It's absolutely fine. The heat hasn't damaged it. Okay, I'll still use it as an embossing folder, so you don't need to worry about that. But as I do take the piece of card off the back before it cools, otherwise you might find it sticks. And do put it underneath something flat while it's warm, so that make sure it then cools down flat. Okay. So while I'm waiting for that, let's get some foil and some card ready for this one. Okay, because that means we don't have to be doing nothing while we're waiting, and it's a good habit to get into, kind of plan out what you're going to be doing, so that while you're waiting for one thing to warm up, you're getting ready for the next one. Now I think I'm going to use this beautiful foil. It's a Couture Creations foil. It's an iridescent turquoise. So I think we're used to seeing sort of rainbow mirror card in silver, but this is like almost like a rainbow card in turquoise. Yeah, that's a good sized piece of card for that. And I could trim my foil at the edge there. Because sometimes you do have uses for little bits of foil. Okay, I'll leave it at the end. Okay, so then I can put that into there. Okay, and use a little bit of tape just to keep that in place. And so that's my side with the recesses in it. This is my lumpy side where I can fill the shapes of the flowers. Okay, so just set that to one side. Go and put this through the die cutting machine now that it's ready. I'll pull that out. Be right back. Okay, so I'm not entirely certain this didn't actually move, so we shall see. So there's my shims, 2 of them. Now I think it's okay because it was taped down. That's good. I can see the slight impression of the embossing folder on the back of the card. I don't know if the camera will pick that up or not. Okay, so that was my piece of card. Let's close this up. Oops. Put a piece of foil over there. Okay, let's see what we've got here. So I'm going to peel my tape from the card to the outside, and that way the tape doesn't pull the raw edge of the card and start ripping it. So that way. And then lift this up. Yeah, try and take the whole thing. So where I've got this mask, you can see that that's actually protected my card from being foiled. There we are. Lovely background pattern. And you might stamp a message here, or have this just in the corner of a larger piece of card. I actually used it as water for a nautical card on one of my cards I made. Actually stamped it onto watercolour card and then made my own background. So that was that one, using a mask. So if you look at my exploring using embossing folders video, I've done more about the masks there, but then you can just apply that idea to this technique for doing the actual foiling. Okay, so that's that one, and then we need, oh, I should have put that one in to warm up while I was talking. Never mind. And I need to close this up, and I usually keep the mask in it, just put it underneath something flat and reasonably heavy. There we go, and that will flatten out. And if you find you've left an embossing folder and it's kind of cooled down and it won't flatten out, if you just warm it up again on the GoPress and then immediately close it and put it somewhere, then that will flatten it out for you. So let's have the last one. Okay, there we are. I've got no printing to worry about with this one, so I can just put it on. I've got a hair though. Got a hair under my tape. Come here. There we are. Right. Put that on there. One shim. So make sure we've got this right. We've got embossing folder where I can fill the pattern. Foil, shiny side down, cardstock, and I'm foiling onto plain, smooth 250 GSM cardstock. It's a nice smooth cardstock. I use it for die cutting, making toppers, that kind of thing. It's a bit too thin for a card base, but as I say, great for everything else, and I only pay about 8p a sheet for it. So it's good value as well. It's card I can just use and not worry about how much I'm investing in my experimentation. I won't say wasting, investing in experimentation. So there we are, those are on there, and that needs to warm up. Okay, and I'm going to leave that to warm and then run it through the die cutting machine, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm back from the die cutting machine. And I can see the slight impression from the embossing folder on the back, so that's a good amount of pressure. So if you're not sure if you've got enough shims, if you can't see a slight impression from the embossing folder, then you probably haven't. Right, so let's take that out, put this back on its base. Okay, so on the back there I can see, so at that point if I lifted that up and thought, can't really see that's done anything, I could add an extra shim and roll it again before I've moved anything, yeah, even before I've taken it off the GoPress. Sorry, there was a bus going past outside then. Okay, so I'm going to peel my tape from the card away from it. So there we are. That's come off without damaging the card. And then let's lift this up. Let's close the embossing folder and put it under the mat while it's still warm. They do cool down quite quickly. There we are. That'll keep that, so I can see that the foil has attached itself to the card. You can see the pattern in it. Okay, so let's peel this back. Okay, and there we are. Because that embossing folder has such lovely fine lines, then that gives the best result. Okay, now did I mention what size piece of card I'm using? I'm not sure I did. In European card sizes, this is an A6, so it's a quarter of a piece of A4 card. In the USA, I think they call that an A2, and I think that's correct, but it's roughly equivalent to if you have a piece of US letter size cardstock and you cut it into 4. That's the sort of size card you'd end up with. I've just got a little bit of extra foil attached there. I don't think that's over foil, I think that's just attached. I've just got a kind of rough paintbrush and I'm just gonna, there you go, just brush the surface and that's just come away completely. So sometimes that happens, that the foil attaches but it doesn't kind of tear away from the bit next to it when you peel, so you end up with odd little bit. So a stiff brush, a kid's paintbrush, we'll just brush those away. But yeah, that's I couldn't have done better with a hot foil stamp, to be honest, than that. Absolutely lovely foiling. Okay, so there we are. Oh, and the waist will be lovely as well. I really will have to recover that bit because that is gorgeous. Okay, so there we are. So you can foil with embossing folders without using a thin metal plate. I think I might actually prefer this method, but time will tell as I try more things out. But at the moment, I think that certainly is at least as good as doing it with a thin metal shim. Okay, so thanks for watching, and this will be on YouTube shortly. Okay, bye.